In modern history, few names evoke as much controversy and outrage as Abu Ghraib. Once a symbol of Saddam Hussein's brutal regime, this infamous prison in Iraq became synonymous with a different kind of horror during the early 2000s, and United States soldiers did this. The world was shocked when photographs and videos emerged, revealing the systematic abuse and torture inflicted upon detainees by American soldiers. What unfolded within the walls of Abu Ghraib would shatter the moral high ground of the United States, ignite international condemnation, and leave a huge stain on the legacy of the Iraq War. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Lindsey Unfiltered. Today I am really excited because we're starting off our A to Z scandal video playlist, and the first one is a very interesting topic that I don't really see a lot on YouTube by American creators, and it's of the 2004 scandal. It's very hard to say. A lot of Americans can't say it right because it is an Arabic word. Abu Ghraib. GHARIB. 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 Abu Ghraib is a jail. Well, it's no longer existing. It was a jail during Saddam Hussein's reign in Iraq. It was a very brutal jail. A lot of brutal things happened at this jail. But the scandal comes in because a lot of the brutal things that were happening at this jail were happening at the hands of United States soldiers. Now, I want to preface this by saying I support the military, of course. I just wanted to make this video to start off the scandal video on a high note. I have to acknowledge things that happened. They happened. Okay, as you saw in the introduction, the extent of abuse the detainees face was brutal. So brutal that I can't even explain most of it in this video. What I will say will be like scratching the surface. What I will explain will be like threading on thin ice. I don't even know if YouTube allowed the video to stay up. So everybody knows 9/11 when the Twin Towers were attacked. Shortly after, we launched a war on terror because we were having really big issues with Iraq and terrorism. So we launched a war on terror and we invaded Iraq. So around 2004, our military went in and started taking control over the prison, which had detainees from all over Iraq for all different types of offenses. It could have been war offenses, it could have been crossing the street wrong. Do not quote me, but there were nonviolent offenders. From my research, there were nonviolent offenders in this jail. There were females and males in this jail. There were a lot of people in this jail that could have or could not have been connected to the war on terror. Now, why is this scandal significant? This scandal is significant because sexual abuse, physical, and some of the most brutal, I'm telling you guys, just go take a search. I can't even describe it on the channel. It's that harrowing and disturbing. I went through some of the materials and photos and tried to pick the ones that weren't so bad, but it made my stomach turn. Can't even speak on half of the stuff. I can't even speak on 70% of the stuff that physically happened, but just know that soldiers were abusing the detainees, the Iraqi detainees. For example, they had dogs sicked on them, they were electrocuted, they were sexually, to name the mildest punishments. Those were the mildest punishments that the soldiers at the time did. Now, President Bush said that, it was W. Bush said that just a group of really messed up soldiers doing this stuff. It wasn't like a big, it wasn't what America represented. So I'm going to let you guys hear some interviews from people that were involved in this, because they can give you a good insight, a better insight than I can. I wasn't there. I was 8, so I knew nothing of it. I'm just hearing about this by doing research on scandals, and it's pretty gruesome. It's pretty bad.
طيلة فترة بقائي في الزنزانات الانفرادية كان هنالك تحقيق يجرى كل يوم.
Throughout my detainment in the solitary cells, there were an interrogation every 2 or 3 days. During these interrogations, we were subjected to many psychological and physical torture methods. One of these methods was that you were kept naked, handcuffed, the hood on your head. Then they would bring a big dog. You hear the panting and barking of the dog very close to your face. This is one of the methods of torture and interrogation that they conducted. There are many other similar cases.
How long were you held like this?
يعني قضايا التحقيق كانت التحقيق التي كانت تحدث كل يومين أو 3 أيام يستمر التحقيق لساعة ساعة ونص.
These interrogations that happened every 2 or 3 days would last for an hour and a half, or 2 hours in this manner. The details of the interrogations were different. In some cases, they would bring dogs, then start the interrogation. In other cases, they'd put you in a place and throw cold water or hot tea on you, then start the interrogation. But of course, all the interrogations were conducted while you were kept naked and hooded, and they'd ask you questions to which you answer. I stayed for 40 days in a solitary cell, and 70% of that time I was kept naked.
That's Salah Hassan of Al Jazeera, also known as Salah al-Ajaili. We're joined by Baher Azmi. He is legal director for the Center for Constitutional Rights, representing the Abu Ghraib plaintiffs in the case. Baher, welcome back to Democracy Now! Explain the significance of the judge once again saying no, the lawsuit will not be thrown out, as Kaki has attempted 18 times to do it.
Thanks, Amy, for continuing to pay attention to this now epic struggle by our clients to get justice, some measure of justice. Yeah, what the court held here and has held repeatedly is that the plaintiffs here, our clients, have presented sufficient evidence that they were subject to torture at Abu Ghraib, and that there was a connection between the military police, some of which were featured on the pictures that we've all come to be horrified by. There was a connection between the military police and khaki interrogators sent from headquarters in the United States, insofar as those interrogators, the khaki interrogators, were ordering the military police, who were acting as guards, to, quote, soften up detainees in the night shift at Abu Ghraib, where there was, as military commanders found investigating the war crimes at Abu Ghraib, a command vacuum. So the court has found that there was sufficient evidence of torture, sufficient evidence connecting the torture to khaki interrogators and domestic headquarters, and has cleared away any, I think, remaining obstacles to this case finally going to trial and our client speaking openly in court.
After seeing these interviews, I want to give my unfiltered opinion. You guys know I have to give my unfiltered opinion about what happened in 2004. It was a huge scandal, huge problem, okay? And how did we let this happen? My opinion is there was no supervision. There was no one to say, let's stop this, okay? I feel like one person let it go, and then another person let it go, and then another person said, let's join in, and then it just became bigger than it once was. There's nothing really outside of that that I can say. How does something like this happen? The most I can tell you is there's no person there with reasoning enough to say, let's stop. Why? What's the motive? In my unfiltered opinion, allegedly, this is my opinion. This is an opinion-based channel. Like I said, it's a very sensitive topic. I started off the A to Z series on a very sensitive topic, and I was having second thoughts last night, going through the material. I was like, this may be too much. The video might get taken down, but hey, it's the A video. So if you guys are going through this a couple weeks later and you're like, where the hell did the A video go? It was taken down because it was too scandalous, baby. This is scandalous as hell. Wow. Tensions from 9/11. Abusive personnel found pleasure in torture. 9/11 was what, 3 years prior to these abuses? So in some way, those personnel, military personnel, could have felt like it was somehow retribution for what happened when some of these people, or it could have been a large majority of those people, weren't even responsible for what happened. They were interrogating some of them, but it was a human rights disaster. You don't treat humans like that. So why? I want you guys' opinions on that. I want you guys' opinions on why. What would possess that type of activity by personnel? Because I don't know. Only thing I could think of is some type of twisted source of retribution. Was it a small group like George W. Bush said? He claimed that it was a small group of people who just had gotten out of control. Was that a small group? If so, what led that small group to not be noticed by any other group? Maybe every soldier wasn't in on it. We know every soldier wasn't in on it, right? But enough of them were for it to go on that long, allegedly. And again, I want to invite you guys to ask you, like, what do you think the motives were? I'm going to post this in some groups. I know it's a very sensitive topic, but I want to post it on some groups in Facebook just to kind of get you guys' idea of what the motive could have been. I know what my unfiltered opinion is. It's just the pictures. You have to do a deep dive on your own. I can't do that for you because it's very, very harrowing what you will uncover. The implications of this. There were human rights violations. Human rights violations, basically violating any human like that is a big issue. So we had to move forward with figuring out how to interrogate prisoners of war in an ethical manner, which, if you look at the 8th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, it most definitely speaks on cruel and unusual punishment. So, I mean, we can take that into consideration as well. The United States' reputation was undermined as a human rights protector to its citizens and to the world. Everyone in the world believes that this country is the best place to live, including myself. Believes that this country is so diplomatic, including myself. So when you see this display of behavior by military personnel, the world and the citizens are heartbroken at what is possible when power gets into the wrong hands. There were legal repercussions for those involved. I'm not going to speak on that, but the individuals that were involved to a certain extent, I'm sure there are multiple. I'm not going to speak on their crimes. I'm not going to speak on their sentencing or anything like that, because Like I said, it's very harrowing, very, very, very traumatic. And they're still in and out of trials to this day via my research. That's how bad it is. Like I said, we've introduced policy changes on interrogation techniques. Now, here's to say other countries might not treat our prisoners of war so well. So they might get an American soldier, they might get an American journalist or someone and imprison them and treat them horrible, right? But that doesn't mean in turn an eye for an eye. In my eyes, in my unfiltered opinion, I don't believe that because a country can be brutal to its citizens, that gives the United States the right to play the same hand. That's not what we were founded on, playing the same hand. Democracy. Yeah, we're running from our values, we were running from our values, and it was just a lot of ugliness going on in the world at that time. And another implication of Abu Ghraib, the prison, was the news coverage, the news media. It was all over. And people finally started to see the media as a tool to introduce policy changes. I'm sure there were spurts before then. You could say Bill Clinton, things of that nature. But the media really showed how it could be a powerhouse to get certain things to the citizens, the consumers. Media has a huge impact on politics. Things people say have a huge impact on politics and how they portray it to the public. It could be a completely different narrative, but if the media gets it to you and I and it looks the way it's represented, it can change who we vote for. It can change how we buy things, when we buy things, and where we buy things. So the media really made it known and made a presence as a policy changing effort in the United States as a result of this scandal. Like I said, guys, it was the pictures that I showed you in the beginning. That is just scraping the surface. It was really bad. And you guys should definitely, if you would like to, by all means, go ahead and do a little bit more digging so you can see, like you can truly see. No one's talked about this. I don't know if you knew about it. I didn't know about it until I did digging. No one's talking about it. Why? Nobody wants to remember that. Nobody wants to be known for that. It's unbelievable when you think about it. But here we are 20 years later, and we're hoping that efforts get better every day to improve things that are going on inside of the military. So there's still abuse going on inside the military, but for the greater good, safety and sanctity and protection of the country, we need that element. So guys, that was a very intriguing first episode, guys. And I hope you guys are ready for B, because I am ready for B. I love what we got planned for B. So if you guys have any ideas for C to Z, drop them down below. I would love to see what you guys think are scandalous things, but B is a good one. B is a very good one. That I also have to do a little bit of research on, because I was like, ooh, that happened. Ooh, I already started digging a little bit. But guys, I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for coming through. This has been Lindsey Unfiltered.